been doing this for a long time, if you've been the over gift giver, if you're the one who researches to every list and you're giving gifts to the mailman and all of the people that are in your life, and you're doing it to the detriment of yourself, in other words, you don't have the money and you don't have the time, and you're starting to, be ugly toward people because you've put this expectation, that's a big screech. Stop right there and start doing some inventory. Figure out why you're having these feelings, or what are the actual feelings that are showing up, and then start sitting back and going, okay, what is my motive? Is it to solve somebody else's problem?
You're listening to the Recovered Life Show, the show that helps people in recovery live their best recovered lives. And here is your host, Damon Frank.
Welcome back to the Recovered Life Show. I'm pleased to be joined today by Kristina Dennis, Recovered Life contributor, codependency, and recovery coach. How you doing today, Kristina?
I am great. Thank you for having me, Damon.
I always love having you on the show because we talk about really important topics, and we talk a lot about codependency and the feelings of codependency. And I was having a conversation with you on the phone the other day, and we were talking about Black Friday. We were talking about shopping and the whole stress of buying for the holidays and the relation between that and codependency. And, I wanted to kind of dive into that on this episode and really talk about, what that whole stress, what is that about as far as a codependent lens of overbuying and overcommitting financially on the holidays?
Absolutely. Well, I think that the holiday gift giving can be one of the biggest slippery slopes for codependents who are trying to not be codependent in their behaviors anymore, because commercialism as well as expectations bring us to that place where we feel like we are not enough unless we overgive. We are. Absolutely.
Right now we're in the heart of it. Like Black Friday, doesn't it seem like everything is designed to try to push people almost from a guilty way, especially Black Friday? It's like, you have to really overspend and you have to overcommit and you have to do it now and you have to do it this weekend.
Absolutely.
And you better do a lot of it.
Right. And I mean, for a codependent, it's very difficult to not feel like they're going to measure up. But when you have commercialism, when you have past gift giving histories in which you've gone over the top, you're going to feel like it's your job to go out and get the most expensive gift or the biggest gift or the most perfect gift for that person. It has become almost sacrilegious to not be able to be good at gift giving. If you look around, everybody has a top 10 list of what to purchase. Every, communication that's out there is based around us solving our relationship issues through gift giving. It's impossible to do it.
You said it, solving our relationships through gift giving. And, what is the tie-in there with codependency and this overspending? Because I think when you talk about codependency, you're really inevitably talking about relationships, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
what is that tie-in, and what do people who have identified themselves as possibly codependent or have traits of codependency, how does this relate to overgiving in the holidays?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, you have to figure out what your motivations are for the gift giving. As a codependent, we usually depend on others' opinions of us to create our own value. So if you have gotten a hit from giving a perfect gift in the past, or you have become, quote, generous, with your gift giving, oh, you always give the most perfect gift, you may feel like you're actually having withdrawal symptoms if you stop partaking in that kind of behavior. It is so difficult to separate what is the expectation and what we are doing and what our motives are. So absolutely check your motives. Why are you giving the gift? Is it to look perfect?
I love the check your motives philosophy, because I think everybody has had that feeling of giving something
Mhm.
and the person that receives it just loves it, right?
Yes.
And I don't think what you're saying is that don't give people things that they're going to love.
Right.
Obviously, as a gift, we want to give something that people like, but it's that feeling that you've just gone too far, or this obsession, right?
Mhm.
And I've been there. I have to admit that I've been there before, where I feel like, oh, you know what, kind of obsessed that I've got to get the
Right.
perfect gift that I got. And really, probably if I look at that, it might tie into a past time where I did that
Absolutely.
and got some sort of acknowledgement for it, and really felt that, like, oh, wow, that's important that I knock this out of the park all the time. When does it, can you talk about some of the feelings that go along with this? Because, when we talk about feelings and codependency and gift
Mhm.
giving and overspending, there's all different kinds of stuff that's going on. I know when people think about money, they have a lot of fear, right? They
Mhm.
have a lot of fear, but at the same time, codependent people have fear that they're not going to please other people, right?
Right.
So it feels like this is all these feelings are kind of jumbled in together.
And it's the worst situation for a codependent to be in, especially when you start having awareness. For instance, many codependents would consider themselves generous. I'm just being generous, but we're doing it from a place of trying to control the other person, trying to move their body to a certain place, expecting a reaction, and it's all about trying to be seen as better than we are. The problem with a codependent who does this over and over again, and I'll speak for my terms, the problem was that if I was giving these extravagant gifts that painted this picture of me being clever and smart and, generous and just an over the top, doesn't she know, she knows exactly what to get me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing it. I was making the gift giving about me. All right. I wanted to have the shiny lights and all of the credit. And I absolutely was creating this false premise of myself. So even if the people loved me, I kind of put myself in a corner because I would get confused of what, well, maybe they don't really love me unless I continue to buy gifts. So you're really setting yourself up for failure. So I think it's a matter of control. It's a matter of saving the other person. It's a matter of getting your identity from their reaction and what you expect from them.
Yeah. And I think we always hear in recovery that resentment is the number one offender. And,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I think about overgiving is that if you can't detach from what you're giving, and
Mm-hmm.
your expectation is that they're going to like it at a level that is going to accommodate your feelings about it,
Exactly.
isn't that really where the problem begins?
It's so controlling. And even as a codependent, you could give gifts that you think are going to help them. It's another sly way of trying to control their behavior. I remember once getting a can of paint for a gift because the person wanted me to paint my bathroom. And so I think back to my history and I realized, oh my gosh, giving people self-help books, making the presumption that you're somehow going to control their behavior or help them have a better relationship with you. I am sorry to burst a codependent bubble. It is not about your generosity. It's about trying to keep yourself safe and to control other people's behaviors.
That is why you are the codependency coach, because I didn't even think about that. And what you're
Mhm.
bringing out is what you're choosing to get people. Are you trying to control them? Even clothing items, right?
Right.
Like I think back to a family member who was upset when I was a teenager that we wouldn't wear jackets in the winter, right? And we wouldn't
Right.
go out prepared, right? So every holiday I would get a jacket or a long
Absolutely.
sleeve shirt or something. And it was great. But, as I get older, I've learned to kind of make that connection. I mean, people really do that, right? What's the feeling behind that for the codependent person? That somehow there'll be some huge breakthrough, right? And that the person, when they get the
Absolutely.
gift, are going to have that realization that they need to do some sort of behavior modification.
Absolutely. You can check your motives. If you're sitting there waiting for a reaction to be over the top, or for this person to change their entire life. Oh, I've got this great book. Now I'm going to look at my own stuff and start having breakthroughs in my, trouble with having intimacy. I mean, it's crazy the reasons why we give a gift. One of my favorite nuggets out of a program of recovery is if it isn't for fun or for free, you don't do it. And that can apply to gift giving. If you are not doing something that will give that other person pleasure, that's fun for them, and you're doing it with an expectation attached to it, then you're not really giving them a gift, and people will resent it. You brought up the perfect example of that as a teenager, and we do this with teenagers where we purchase things that we feel are better for them. And I tell people, you buy a gift certificate, or you look at something that if this person is for fun and has everything, then you look at an experience. You need to determine what is the reason why you're giving somebody a gift in the first place. And we're all obligated at Christmas or Hanukkah to give gifts. And this is one of the areas of boundaries that every codependent needs to look at. Money. Now, a lot of us will think that the money boundary is about not lending somebody money, but the truth is the money boundary is about you and how much are you willing to do. And if you're going into debt, which I know this is not going to be a popular thought, but if you're going into debt, then oops, you've done it again. You have to pull back and figure out exactly what you can afford and what will work for that person as well as within your budget.
It's interesting that you say like you have to pull back, because in recovery, many people that are listening to this are in recovery from drugs, alcohol, codependency. And one of the first things that you learn is that people that have addiction issues have a hard time pulling back. Absolutely. Because they get addicted. They go a little too far, right?
Right.
And I've seen this with gift giving, and I love the examples that you set out, because you're talking about, what does the person really want? And then what can you do? Right. And that balance back and forth. Kristina, can you give us some tips here about if people are listening to this and the pressure's on, right? And they've already been on the computer or been to the mall 5 times.
Right.
And since they've,
we know them.
And now they're seeing this, right?
Yes.
And there's that feeling. It's like, well, I have to do more. I've got to get that one extra gift.
Absolutely.
It's got to be totally perfect. What do you do? What do you do if you have these codependency traits and you feel that you've gone a little bit too far? What are some great tips for people?
Well, absolutely. If you've been doing this for a long time, if you've been the over gift giver, if you're the one who researches to every list and you're giving gifts to the mailman and all of the people that are in your life, and you're doing it to the detriment of yourself, in other words, you don't have the money and you don't have the time, and you're starting to, be ugly toward people because you've put this expectation, that's a big screech. Stop right there. And start doing some inventory. Figure out why you're having these feelings, or what are the actual feelings that are showing up, and then start sitting back and going, okay, what is my motive? Is it to solve somebody else's problem? Am I giving a gift to solve somebody else's problem? Am I giving a gift to avoid focusing on myself? Am I giving a gift because I want this person to care about me as much as I care about them? Am I giving a gift to be perfect? These are great questions to ask yourself. Start with that and be honest. Why am I going overboard? What am I deferring? What am I not looking at by getting all caught up in Christmas or Hanukkah and spending the money that I don't necessarily have?
Yeah. And I think, just like any other addiction, there will come the hangover and the price that you have to pay for everything that you do. Right.
Right.
And I think that as people get into January, when that credit card bill comes in, and then if they feel that they didn't get what they wanted out of it. And, one of the things that we've learned from you and on this episode too, is that codependent people primarily do not get what they want out of it, because ultimately they never really get the payoff, right?
Absolutely. It's a setup. It's a complete setup for you and for that other person. These behaviors, you will continue to question what the other person's there for. Is it because I'm a gift giver? Is it because I plan everything? Is it because I show up and fill in all the cracks? Or is it because I actually am a person who has feelings? I was so lonely in my late 20s, even though I had a ton of friends, because I never showed anybody what I had in regards to needs or wants or hopes. And so they couldn't necessarily fulfill it. Nobody could compete with me when it came to gift giving. And that's a
Yeah.
way of keeping control and keeping yourself safe.
Yeah. And this whole idea of control, I think this is great. And when you start to have these feelings, just to be able to go down that checklist and inventory that you're talking about,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it kind of just check them off, right? Check them off one by one to really find out what your motives are. Now, question, as a codependent person, as a gift receiver, if you're receiving things, what's the side of that and the tie-in with codependency and receiving?
Absolutely. Well, if somebody is gift giving with strings attached, there's going to be resentment. If you're the receiver, you get something, and I'm pretty sure everybody can relate to this. You get something and there's a string attached to it. Big extravagant gifts. I see parents purchasing cars for people or, homes, but the attachment is that you are dependent on me and you're not going to have your own thoughts and you're never going to go outside of this contract that we have. So gift giving is not going to solve any of the history that's happening. As somebody who's receiving it, you can say thank you, but you also have to determine, do I need to have a conversation with this person that says, I was a little uncomfortable, that's too extravagant, or what are your expectations of my behavior? Because we all know that very few things are for free, that you're paying for them eventually, until you start cleaning up your relationships with people and start really determining, by doing that checklist and having an accountability partner and having a budget that you stick with, you're going to have to kind of go through some of the yucky feelings of what has happened. But I say receive the gift in a gracious manner and then talk it over with somebody after, if you know that there are strings attached, and you come up with a plan on how you're going to handle that in the future.
Kristina Dennis, this has been an amazing episode with a lot of great takeaways. And I think the big takeaway is that any kind of gift, receiving a gift or giving a gift, isn't going to heal a past broken relationship.
Exactly.
That one act, is not going to heal that. And I think one of the things that you talk about that is so good is working on yourself to make sure before you get in these positions, right, that you know what your motivation and intentions are. Kristina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And you guys can find out more about Kristina at Recovered Life. And she puts a lot of takeaways there on the blog and also in the private community. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kristina, for coming on today.
You're welcome. Everybody have a safe holiday and stick with your budget. You don't have to overgift.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.